Welcome to Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two friends who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm Courtney,
And I'm MK.
and how are you doing?
I am living the dream. Well, in this exact moment, I am not because my stomach hurts and
Maybe you
it's
talked for like
late.
7 hours.
Yeah. But on Saturday, I went to a Bills game.
I saw that. I want you to know I saw your pictures and got very, very confused because I thought it was Sunday. And
Um,
I understand preseason
I,
is different. Go
yes,
ahead.
preseason is different, and I also spent most of the morning being very confused because I was getting ready for a Bills game. And it wasn't Sunday, and I kept thinking I had to go to work the next day, but then I didn't. And so I also felt that way all day at the Bills game. But we obliterated the Denver Broncos. I think it was like
Nice.
42-9 with
Yeah.
our second and third string. So there's that. It was great. And it was mine and Dan's first game together. And without planning it or talking about it, we both wore Stephon Diggs jerseys.
I saw that. I thought that was adorable.
Yeah. And then yesterday, I went to a Jack White concert.
Did you tell me that?
I don't know. I told you I was at a concert yesterday. I don't know if I told you it was Jack White.
I think you told me it was Jack White.
Yes, I went to see Jack White.
Fun.
It was amazing. It was so great. And before the concert, I literally said, I don't know how many Stripes songs he's going to play and how much he's going to stick to like his catalog. But if this man does a show in the Buffalo area and does not end the show with Seven Nation Army, it is a missed fucking opportunity. So he ended the show with Seven Nation Army, like
Naturally.
a 5-minute version of it, and the entire audience was going absolutely bananas. It
Ugh.
was amazing. But Jack White is weird
Is
because
what?
a little weird because
Oh,
he
yes. Correct.
cell phones ruin concerts. And so in order to go to the Jack White concert, you have to lock your phone up.
Yeah. I get it though, dude. I get it.
And I will tell you, during the actual performance, I didn't even notice the fact that I didn't have my phone. During the hour and a half I sat there between gates opening and the opener playing, I was a little peeved
Yes.
that I didn't have my phone.
That's the worst part. Yes.
Yeah. But it was so good. And I just want to say, if the people who do the lights and projection for Jack White's show ever listen to this podcast, you are my fucking heroes. That was the most epic visual show I've ever seen.
I guarantee you every one of them listens to us. All of
Perfect.
them.
All of them. Fantastic. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you
Anytime.
for that. It was also the fifth concert I've been to since Dan and I started dating, but the first one that we both went to together. Yeah.
Yes. Confidence.
Yeah. My sister was like, you've been to 3 concerts in the last week. And I was like, no, what? Yes, I have. Yeah.
I'm jealous. I love a
Yeah.
good concert. I've been in ages. I've been to a lot of shows lately. But like theater, not
Yeah.
concert.
No, summer means concerts.
Tracks, not
Yeah.
tracks.
Yeah.
Well, I have officially decided summer is over. I am still sweating and I don't care. I'm done with it.
Okay.
Therefore, it is canceled. It is done.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I full into spooky season. I am ready for all things scary and
Okay.
all things dark and all things cold.
That is
Hmm.
very fair.
Yes. So I have been watching, I think I talked about this last week, that I've been watching American Horror Story, just kind of like
Yep.
binging the ones I hadn't seen before. So I will start by saying I did skip Coven and Freak Show because I'd already seen those. But I am
Okay.
currently on season 5.
Fantastic.
I am over halfway through with it.
I love it.
It is excellent. I am thriving. I'm having a great time. And also, thanks to you and Monica, I saw y'all's post about that drive-in movie in like Pennsylvania, but like right outside of Jersey.
Yeah.
And I just like screenshot it and sent it to Zach, and I was like, meet me in the middle. And we may go do a drive-in. Cause it's like pretty accessible from here. I would imagine. I haven't looked at a train schedule, but if it's like
Yeah.
just on the other side of Jersey and
Yeah,
he lives in Pennsylvania,
It's in Morrisville, PA, which is bordering Jersey. It's like a town that is right on the border.
yeah, I would guess it's like an hour and a half train ride from here, maybe two.
Probably. It is
So,
definitely a 6.5 hour drive from here.
right, it's much more accessible for me. And he lives in Philadelphia and has a car, so we will use his car to be at a drive-in.
I love
And
that.
I hope it happens. I am so looking forward to spooky season. I'm ready now, right now.
That.
So, all right. No idea a good segue. I am so sorry. But in case you need a little spiritual affirmation, I got you.
Please. Fantastic. Hit me up.
Surround yourself with the dreamers and the doers, the believers and thinkers, but most of all, surround yourself with those who see greatness within you.
Is that a famous quote?
I don't know, maybe. I think so.
So I was like, I feel like I know that quote.
Let's see. I guess I could Google it.
Oh, did you just like save it off of a website?
What?
Did you just like save it off of a affirmation site?
Mhm.
As I like make so much
Why
noise.
is your sound weird?
It's weird because I'm trying to like plug my computer in and I just like moved 800 things and echoed and hit the microphone and completely fell apart all at once.
Edmund Lee.
Okay, that sounds right.
Mhm. Yes. It's a
I
good
was like,
one.
I know that quote, but it is
Yeah,
also good affirmation.
yeah, there's a couple I've saved that I'm like, I'm pretty sure these are quotes from somewhere.
Yeah.
Uh, so we'll get to them. We'll get to them.
I'm gonna have to start saving up my quotes again because I do a quote of the day every day on the board in class. And sometimes they're Disney quotes, but like I try to do things that will like actually inspire the kids to do things. Sometimes I just do like really, really weird things that are just like completely outlandish. At one point, I changed the quote of the day to just random big rat facts last year,
I
where I just
remember
told
that.
them facts about rats. But school starts in 2 weeks, which means I have to start thinking of quotes and facts.
Well, pick a new animal. Do penguin facts.
That's true. My eighth grader who was obsessed with rats graduated and requested me on Facebook today, and I have not figured out what to do with that yet. So,
Maybe not yet.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because of all the kids, he'd be the one that I wouldn't think would be weird about it. But since I have already blocked all of his other classmates who've attempted to find me on social media, I can't just accept him. So I'm just kind of leaving it in limbo.
Fair. Fair. Um, Other things that are in limbo. Um, Bates Motel and what's going on.
What what is going on? This whole this whole this whole show is a mess right now.
It is a lot, and it's clear. I feel like it's clear that they panicked at the beginning of the season, and they were like, "This show's not ending yet. Let's keep going." Because I feel like the end with Gil and
Oh, with Nick Ford.
not Gil, yeah, Nick Ford, Christine, and her brother, her crazy
George.
brother, George. No, no, no. Oh, I didn't mean Christine. I meant the drug
Oh,
people.
Zane and what's her name?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, I thought that was kind of like a big finale section, even though
Yeah.
everything wasn't solved, but a lot of what we talked about in season one and season two was. So,
Right. No, like I don't necessarily think this storyline right now is bad. I'm
No,
just
it's not.
confused.
Yeah, and I think it's because they're kind of starting over. Like they're not like completely obviously, but they're
Yeah,
like, oh, we need to keep this going, so we're gonna need new stories. Our old stories are done, which is
correct.
fun. But we just have to figure out what's going on again.
Right.
So we are on season 3, episode 2. It is called The Arcanum Club, and it aired on March 16th, 2015. It was rated 8 out of 10. Yes.
Sorry, I forgot what year this was for a second. And March 16th, 2016 was a very, very bad day in my life. And I had a brief moment of severe panic, but no,
Oh,
March
don't
16th,
worry. We'll get
2015. I don't know.
Don't worry, we'll get 2016 for season 4. You can have a panic attack then.
Great.
Yeah, don't worry. Like 11 weeks from now.
Yeah, but
Um,
it won't, if it's on the same day of the week, it won't be the same number day.
you're right. You're right. Um, the number one song is still Uptown Funk.
Of course.
The number one movie is Insurgent, which is number 2 in the Divergent series.
Oh, right.
Um, I don't remember feeling any kind of strong way about it. I loved the books. Um, I waited too long to read them, and then I read them and read them all. And I was like, this is incredible. I remember thinking the third movie was subpar based on the books. Or the
See,
third, the fourth
my
was like two parts.
mom read the books. I that didn't read the books or watch the movies. My mom read the books and the movies and said the same thing, where if I was going to do either of it, it should be the books. And I chose
Absolutely.
to do none.
Well, that's fine too. I really liked the series though.
It's totally fair.
Um, on this day, I couldn't find a lot that happened, but one very notable thing happened.
Oh boy.
Um, Robert Durst was formally charged with the murder of Susan Berman.
Oh my God, I remember that.
Yeah,
That's a big thing.
it's a big thing. So, because he's a moron. He's
So
the
dumb.
one. Did you ever watch The Jinx? Because I didn't, but I know like the story.
I know I didn't watch it, but I've listened to podcasts about
Yeah,
it, and I've done a lot of like I've done all the reading about what
great.
happened.
It's
What a
wild. For those of you who don't know, brief overview, this guy started killing people and people were like, it's gotta be him. But he's like from a really prominent um family in New York. I think it was New York, real estate in New York, I think. Something very prominent.
yeah.
And so like people were like, could be him, but he like got away with it because he was, there was no real evidence. And then when they were like they had him mic'd for something, either it was like a deposition or interview something, and he went to the bathroom and didn't turn his mic off and confessed to everything
To himself in the
to
mirror.
himself in the mirror out loud while he was mic'd, like a moron.
Like basically, honestly, almost like Norman Bates himself was like, haha, they'll never know it was me. Like now
Right.
they do. Now they do because you said it out loud on mic.
Wild. Wild. And turns out he killed some other people too.
Quite a
But
few. Yeah. It's a interesting read.
it's very
Listen,
interesting. Yeah.
watch. Yeah.
I've listened to a lot of podcasts about it and done a lot of research on it. I haven't watched The Jinx either. I heard it was very good if you have HBO Max.
Yes,
Um,
I've heard nothing but good things.
but yeah, so that's Soup's fun. Glad we put him away. Um, director's Tucker Gates, and we have the same writers.
Fantastic.
Nothing's changed, everything's the same. Because
Good.
we like consistency here at Bates Motel.
Well, not
That's what
mentally.
we're about here. Today we're going to talk about Ryan Hurst, who plays Chick Hogan. Everyone else is retired.
Ryan Hurst. I know that guy. Is he in Sons of Anarchy?
He is in Sons of
Okay.
Anarchy. He's in quite a lot of things. He is, I believe, most well known for Sons of Anarchy.
Well, so here's the thing about Ryan Hurst, and the reason why it wasn't his face that ticked me off, it was his name. So Ryan Hurst is in Sons of Anarchy. He was supposed to be at the Comic Con that I went to in
Mm.
April, but he canceled But by the time he canceled, his handler was already in Philadelphia. And so she ended up just being like, you know what, like I'm here. I might as well just like help and work as a volunteer with some of the other celebrities while I'm here. And then I ended up hanging out with her like a couple times and she was fantastic and I really really liked her and she was like the person like directing traffic for most of the celebrity lines that I was in and she was great and so if she's ever listening to this podcast, you're wonderful.
Oh, she is.
I only remember Ryan Hurst because of her, not because of anything he's done.
Everyone listens to this podcast.
Yes.
So fun facts about him regarding Sons of Anarchy. He was meant to be a small character in the first season and then became a series regular because they liked him so much. Also, whoever plays his dad on the show or vice versa was not written in as a family member, but they saw the chemistry they had together in the first like episode or two and just decided to make them father and son. So, fun fact.
I haven't ever watched Sons of Anarchy.
I haven't either.
It's on my list.
Yeah, it's not really on my list, but I've heard it's really good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, everything's on my list.
That's true. That's true. Other things he's known for are Remember the Titans, which I have seen 1,000 times because we watched it in health class in high school a lot.
He must have been young in Remember the Titans, though.
He had to have been.
Okay.
Because that movie came out, what, like 20 years ago?
Yeah.
The Lady Killers, which I've never heard of. And We Were Soldiers, which I have heard of, but I've never seen, and Saving Private Ryan. So he's
That's even older than Remember the Titans.
In a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's very active in the acting world, and you can go like look at his credits, and you've seen tons of things he's in.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's done a lot. And then he's married to Molly Cookson, who's been in like 4 things, and I've never seen any of them or heard of any of them.
It's wonderful.
I'm sure she's lovely. But that's that. And now we're back at the motel.
Also, sorry, speaking of guest stars, just quickly, I want to point out something that we did not address on the podcast that my sister brought to my attention. There was a guest star on an episode of Stargate, and we were like, oh, he's in the season finale of season 2 of Bates Motel, but we hadn't got to it yet. And then we never addressed it. It was the polygraph guy.
Oh, that tracks.
Yeah.
Which guy was it? What did he do at Stargate?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Was it the weird guy when they became robots?
No, it was the weird guy when they became robots.
Because we were like, how is this going to play in Bates? Remember?
No, was it? Because was it that guy? Huh. I don't know. I don't remember. I just know that my sister was like, did you guys ever talk about that? And I was like, nope, we didn't.
We sure didn't. Because we sure forgot. I think he was the weird guy because I think I remember us having a conversation about him being like
weird in everything that he did.
Right. And so it was like, how's he going to play at Bates too? But he did very well.
But actually, no, was that the polygraph guy?
I don't know.
Didn't you talk about the polygraph guy?
No. I don't think so. That was 4 episodes ago. I do not know who I talked about. Oh no, I talked about Zane. Because I was like, have to talk about him.
Yes. Nope. It is the polygraph guy. Because I'm looking at it and it was that guy from the Tin Man. Yep. Interesting.
Lovely.
Thanks, Bree.
Thanks for reminding us, keeping us on our toes. Other things that keep us on our toes. We're back at the motel. And we start with Norma. Because why not? And this whole intro before the credits feels like we're just like following Norma around her life while she slowly spirals.
Yeah.
Because we start with her she's trying to drop off the towels at Annika's room. And she's like, and I want to check your bathroom shades. And I was like, first of all, that sounds very creepy. But you're trying to do it so it won't be creepy. And I understand that.
Right. Yeah.
But That is
But
very strange to say. You should just be like, oh, I'm just checking a couple things while I'm here. Leave it at that. But whatever. And so then she goes back to the office because Annika never
hold on,
answers.
before she does
Yes.
that, before she goes back to the office, she also starts to like creepily look in the windows to see if Annika is like in the room or has like slept in her bed. And I literally go, hey, remember when you yelled at your son for being a peeping Tom like 47 seconds ago?
Okay, but to be fair, Norman was doing it creepily and she was doing it because she was concerned.
Still not acceptable.
Probably. I would forgive it faster, for sure.
Sure.
If it was like for a good reason to be concerned. Not if it was just like, hey, I'm
But at this point, does she
sleeping.
have a reason other than she thinks the lady's kind of a slut?
No,
Yeah.
I don't think so.
So
I don't think so yet. Um, and she goes back to the desk and she's just like super weirded out that Annika's missing. And she starts asking like Emma, like if she's seen her. And then she's like, Emma's like, no, I'm sure it's fine. She's like, I haven't seen her since yesterday or whatever. And then she like goes down to the basement and asks Norman, and Norman's like taxidermying a baby goat that he like found in a dumpster or something. And I was like, this is a very strange
and and
normal.
she was like, did you put that in our freezer? And then all I could think about was dead animals in the freezer, and it's just disgusting.
You know.
I'm
And he's like
ugh.
not phased. He's like, well, then I just need a freezer down here. But also, do you know how expensive freezers are to keep running? Like, their electricity would skyrocket. But also, I wouldn't want it in the same area where like my food was.
Or maybe just don't keep dead goats.
Well, got taxidermy them somehow. And so she asked Norman if he's seen her, and he straight up lies and says no. And you can tell from when she turns around and walks off by the look on his face
That it was a fucking lie.
that it was a straight faced lie, and he knows it. And I think this is the first time that he straight up lied to Norma instead of not remembering.
Yeah, and then doesn't he like turn around and say something to her as she's leaving?
He says something like, everything's gonna be fine or she's gonna be okay
Oh,
or something like
yeah, and but it came off so
very
creepy.
creepy.
So creepy.
He's like much more fixed in the psychotic state than he normally is.
It is weird. I
I will
don't
say I'm not sure throughout this entire episode that he reverts back to himself fully.
know. Like not once.
Right. And this is the first episode that's fully like that, which is very strange. I mean, it's good for the show wise, but
Yes. Yeah.
um, and so after we follow Norma around and question everyone about Emma, I mean about Annika, it's the time for the credits. And they're doing really good with these intros, I feel like. Like
Yeah, they're long though. Like I'm not mad about it. I think they're well done, but they've been long.
they're long, but they've shortened the credits so much that it's
Yeah.
just like a flash of the sign. And so it's like, you know,
Yeah.
and I'm sure that's why they made it so short, was because they made the intro so long. But I like this format better than the other where the credits were longer and you had like a short skippy intro.
Yeah, that's true.
And I mean some of them like when the dad dies, like the very first one, and it was like pretty quick. I thought that was good because
Yeah.
but you can't have that kind of intensity in every episode starting too. So I also like this style. Um, and then we go to Dylan, and I just put yay Dylan, and then I put boo Caleb because he
I literally
still
I
cares.
wrote, does this man just live here now?
Yes, unfortunately, that seems to be the case. I'm very upset about it. I mean, he brought his dog, or he found a dog. I don't even know where this dog came
No,
from.
no, no.
Where did
The
the dog?
dog belonged to Gunner.
Oh,
Gunner said that's my dog.
oh, I missed that. Wait, that
Oh,
part.
yeah. No, I thought he brought his dog too, but then Dylan was like, where did the dog come from? Gunner was like, oh, it's mine. And I was like, oh, okay. Gunnar can bring a dog. I'm more supportive of that.
Oh, see, I was taking notes that time, so when I heard, oh, it's mine, I thought it was Caleb saying
No,
it. That's
no,
why.
it was Gunnar's dog. We support Gunnar having a dog.
Gunnar can have a dog, but Caleb's meant to go home. He's not meant to be there anymore. So I'm over him. Because the next thing he comes up to Dylan, he's like, thanks for letting me stay. Dylan's face doesn't look like it's letting you stay. It looks like you just kind
Um,
of settled down and Dylan just let you.
I will say that Dylan's face for the entirety of this episode looked like I don't know why the fuck I'm still alive.
Yeah. He's like, I don't know why I'm here and why any of this has happened. Absolutely. Um, and then we go back to Bates. And mm, so we know that Norman knows he did something because we saw his face. But then when Norma's talking to Emma again, and she's like, when did you see her last? She says, oh, last night when her and Norman went to town. And Norma's face.
I was like, Norma, ma'am. Literally, my note says, like, you know.
And like you can tell by her face. She
Mhm.
definitely knows. And like it's I don't know where her breaking point is. She's had a few of them, but like she's gonna break even harder. Like at some point. And it feels like it's gotta be soon.
Right.
Because she is just on the edge. And I just put poor sweet Emma. She never knows what she's getting into. Has no idea that her now boyfriend is a murderer
Correct.
and psychotic. Um, and so Norma naturally storms off to go talk to Norman, and she's like frantically yelling for me. She's like, "Yes, mother. What?" And it's like you are very calm for someone who has probably injured someone at a minimum. And she tells him, "I thought this line was really good, but for the wrong reason." She says, "You
Well,
can't keep getting into cars with questionable women." And I was like,
correct.
that is accurate, but you're saying they're questionable because they sleep around.
Okay, but
Not questionable because they're adults.
before she starts talking about what actually happened, she was like, what did you do last night? Like, why did you get in her car? And he explains this whole series of events.
Mhm.
And I said, I almost would believe you if you weren't a known murderer.
Absolutely. I would
And
have
then,
almost believed that lie.
and then, and then Norma goes off and she starts saying these things about these questionable characters of these women. And I was like, Norma, you are starting to get very judgmental about women right now. And then she said, unhinged women seem drawn to you. And I was like, story of my life. Um, but yeah,
Uh,
no, while I disagree with her sentiment entirely, those two lines, some of my favorite quotes of
yes.
hers ever.
And like they are questionable women because they are full on adults who are getting a child. I guess he's maybe I don't know, I think he's still 17. Maybe he's 18 now. But child enough in their car and seducing them. So like
Yeah.
questionable for sure, not for the reason she's saying.
Yeah, no, and like even if he was 18, one of them was his teacher and one of them is a sex worker.
Yeah. And
Questionable.
also like, yeah, Norma, he attracts unhinged women because all he's known are unhinged women. Because that's how
Right.
you are.
Yeah. Um, you know how like Freud believed that everyone had a little bit of an Oedipus complex ordeal? Well, as someone who has always found the idea of that to be repulsive, but then started dating a man that is so similar to my father, it's
Mm-hmm.
horrifying. Um, I fully believe that is what happens. Um, and you, Norma Bates, are quite literally one guitar string away from going so far off the edge that Mercy Flight couldn't save you.
Yes, you are on a very thin thread. Um, so now she insists that he takes her everywhere they went last night. She's like, take me there. We need to figure out what happened.
Mhm.
And he's like, okay. So he takes her to the bar that he theoretically dropped Annika off at. And Norma like is like revving herself up. She gets out to go inside and she stops and she looks at him and she said, "Why did you say she was troubled?" And I was like, ugh,
I literally wrote, "Ooh, that past tense verb usage will get you every time. Norman clearly doesn't watch enough true crime."
sure doesn't. Sure doesn't. Thank
You
God,
never,
but sure doesn't.
you never assume the past tense until the body is found, motherfucker.
Exactly. Exactly. So, and he's just like ignores it basically. Norma's just like, no, no, nothing. It's fine. And she goes inside to talk to the shop owner. And his face, he looks like almost proud of himself because he has that tiny almost
Yeah,
smirk
that's why I said
and dead
what did you?
eyes.
That's why I said what did you do?
I
No,
know.
no.
And so then she goes in to talk to the bar owner. She's losing it, but trying not to.
Yeah,
And she comes back, turns out that he like doesn't remember her. But also like you're not gonna remember everyone that comes to your bar at night. So like
it's fine. Yeah.
totally fair. Um, although I will say when I know someone is a sex worker at my bar, fully remember them the next day. So will say he probably should have remembered her, especially being in such a small town.
Yeah.
But that leans more on the fact that she probably never showed up.
Right.
Um,
When
but
Norma gets back in the car, she says, "I don't know how much more of this I can take." And I said, "Ma'am, lock him up." It's that simple.
right,
If you don't know how much more you can take, just put him away.
you have taken too much already. You can't handle what you've already got. And
Lock, lock him up in a padded room. I don't.
it's what? Yeah, no, yeah, needs to be gone from her care at
Correct.
minimum. Um, and then we go back briefly to Dylan, and he's just like leaving Caleb and Gunnar his house. He's like, "Okay, I gotta go home now. Bye." And they're like, "What do you mean? You don't want to hang out?" He's like, "Nope, I don't want to be here. You both just decided you were staying here. I'm gonna go home now." I was like, "Why don't you just like kick them out? You own this house. All of these things are yours."
He doesn't
Granted,
know how
Gunner
to
like
do that.
keep Gunner. I
Yeah,
know.
he
But
doesn't know
like
how to do that.
and like to be fair, also like Remo's his bestie, so like he will Gunner stay anyways, but like you don't owe Caleb anything. You owe him less than nothing.
I mean, technically, technically, he owes him DNA. Like he quite literally wouldn't be alive.
Yeah, but he would probably rather not be alive than have Caleb's DNA.
Fair. Not
So
wrong. Not wrong.
it wasn't like a good thing. Um, so Caleb's trying to talk him into staying, and he's like trying to leave, and then the dog like runs off and gets into a fight with another dog that just came out of nowhere and started growling. And Caleb just stands up. Everyone else is like, "Oh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh." Caleb stands up, pulls out a gun, shoots the other dog, and just done. And he's like, "I'm gonna go inside now."
I was like, I do not like the idea of him having a gun at all.
I
Nope.
don't like the idea of him having a gun.
Nope.
I don't like the idea of him being a good shot, and I definitely don't like the idea of how calmly he did that.
Yeah, no, none of that.
That
None
is
of
bad news for everyone.
correct.
Um, and then we go back to the Bates, and Norman's finally telling Norma about Emma, and she's like, "Oh, when did this happen?" And he just says, "It seemed like a good time to lay a foundation." I'm sorry, lay a foundation. That's how you're referring to your relationship
Yeah,
with Emma.
yeah.
I don't I don't think we're on the same page here. And the
No, I
whole
don't.
time,
I didn't hate that though. My problem was I actually like didn't hate it so much that like I hated it because like I hate when the two of them have scenes where it almost feels like such normal conversation that I start to question if they're crazy.
well, the thing is, like, I felt like it would have been like, say you and Dan have been hitting it off for a while. He's like, it was time to lay a foundation for the relationship. We started going out. Fine, totally normal. When
See,
Norman says something like that,
right.
it
No, no,
feels like
no. No, no, no.
he's saying,
Absolutely.
I'm setting up a whole plan for go forward, like how I can do whatever I want in my life, but then I have this
Oh
person
no,
because it's what I'm supposed to do.
you're not wrong. You're not
Yeah.
wrong. But my problem is just that like out of context, that scene between a mother and a son, so normal. Her
Totally
reaction
fine.
is even the actually words that he used, maybe not the tone with which he says them, maybe
Right.
not his facial expression, but like the actual dialogue and their interaction, so normal that I start to question if I'm insane or they're insane.
This by the end of Bates, I think we are both going to be needing to be committed somewhere.
I
Um,
already need therapy because of this show.
I mean, I need therapy for a lot of reasons, but also this show. This is one of the reasons. Um, but yeah, and so that was super fun. But you can tell looking at Norma's face the whole time how conflicted she is. Because she's like happy that he's with Emma because she's like, oh, good for Norman. He's doing normal things. Like, and she
Right.
likes
She's
Emma.
like, I love Emma. Emma is such a sweet girl. Norman picking a girl who's not a questionable adult woman. I'm so proud of him. Also, he did just kill a lady, and
Keeps
what if
killing
he
people.
kills Emma too? Like,
Right. Right. And so she's like, I don't know how to feel about this. Every other person he's been with has died, kind of died, or had to
well,
leave
and
because he killed someone close to them.
Norma doesn't know that Bradley's not actually dead.
Right. So she thinks that
So
Miss
Bradley's
Watts
dead, Miss Watson's dead,
and
and
Annika
Cody, well,
had to
and
leave
Cody got
because
run out of town.
right. So like literally every person, every woman he's been around that he's had a form of attraction to has a miserable life, if not dead, in Norma's eyes. So it's a little conflicting. And Norman is still like weirded out about being with Emma. Like it feels his interactions with Emma feels like he's like, this is the normal thing to do. This is what I'm supposed to do to be normal.
Oh yeah, no, it
And
absolutely.
it's so
Um,
weird from how
Brie,
their relationship started.
yeah, no. So Bree has been watching Bates and listening to the podcast, but she's also watching Good Doctor right now. And the transition with Freddie Highmore between going from Good Doctor to Bates is freaky, but not just because of how weird Norman is, but because of how many things that Norman does that, like, if we weren't sure he was actually psychotic, seem like he could just be someone with autism, like misinterpreting, like masking in a situation.
Right,
Like,
right. It's a wild ride for sure.
yeah, yeah.
I did watch the first season of The Good Doctor before I ever watched Bates Motel, and so that was the first, I guess, the first grown-up Freddie Highmore I'd seen because I've also seen
Mm,
August Rush, but I think I saw him in something else too. I did watch Neverland, but there was something else I think I saw him in
okay.
before he was a grown person.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's definitely a very weird transition. Um, and then we go back to Dylan.
Hold on. One thing I will say,
Yes.
in the scene where he was being really awkward with
Emma.
Emma, Emma was like, yeah, I read that ramen is actually like the worst kind of date food, something to do with the slurping. And I literally go, ma'am, ramen is the best kind of date food. What kind of dates do you go on? I object.
Okay, to be fair, I had ramen for the first time that wasn't like packaged ramen with my mom like last year, and neither of us knew what we were doing, and we were just making a mess, and it was so like obnoxious. And so I was like, now that I know how to eat ramen like a normal person, probably okay. But
I'm very pro ramen on dates. In fact, Dan and I have gone two ramen places already. So
Well, I have my excellent ramen place across the street, and but it is very hot right now. It's not very hot, but it's too hot for ramen.
that's true. I haven't had ramen since May.
Um,
No, June. June?
it's a
June.
hot time to have ramen.
No, I lied. It was July 2nd. So I guess it was technically July, but it wasn't this hot yet.
It was hot in July.
The first weekend of July was still tolerable.
Ugh, ugh, ugh.
Okay, my tolerable and your tolerable are not the same thing.
Are not the same thing. You're very correct. Um, but now we're with Dylan, and it turns out he has a neighbor from South Face who has come over.
I said, who is this guy?
Well, this guy is Chick Hogan,
Check out him.
and
Right.
we learned that because he comes over and he says, "My dog's gone. Can you tell me what happened, or have you seen him?" And Dylan's like panicking on the inside, and he's like, "No." And then Caleb, all high and mighty, comes out, and he's just like, "How's it going? Thanks for visiting. See you later. Like, we'll let you know
Um,
about your dog."
I
I was like,
literally wrote, in this scene, I didn't actually like hate Caleb that much because I literally wrote, your dog is dead, good sir, and you might be too if you don't back the F up. And
wait,
then my
later.
next note says, I also like green beans, Caleb. So clearly.
Yes. However, I would like to, I'm assuming he is talking about drugs,
Yeah.
not actual green beans.
No, 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 no. I assumed that, but also when they first started talking about tomatoes, they were clearly talking about drugs. But
Right.
then they were like going weirdly into this like strange like plant metaphor that didn't quite make sense. And at that point, I think he was just genuinely like, I like green beans. What are you gonna do? Mess with my
Well, he
garden?
also was like, how
But
many
like,
green beans are you growing or something?
no, he asked about how many tomatoes are you growing? Tomatoes was what they kept
Gotcha.
saying. Yeah, the tomatoes was what they kept saying that they were actually talking about weed. But then he was
Right.
like, yeah, we're growing tomatoes. And but then he started listing other plants to be basically be like, it's none of your goddamn business what we're growing. And he was like, yeah, we're growing green beans because I like green beans. And it almost felt like a passive aggressive, like, what are you gonna tell me? I can't eat fucking vegetables now too? I can't live on your mountain. I can't shoot your dog. I can't eat vegetables.
That's also the thing is like, he never said he couldn't live there. He did say he couldn't shoot his dog. Like, fair. And he was just kind of like
Yeah, but
scoping.
his dog attacked their dog. I also would have had to like
I
do
mean,
something.
yes, correct, correct. And so he just like runs this guy off. And like, fine, we don't need to get into it with like a guy from the other side of the hill. But also, Caleb, you don't run anything. You're not in charge of anything, even though you think you are. Let me go back to Norma. So she's looking in the car windows, trying to like suss out what's happening with Annika. And Emma's like, why don't you look in her room? I'm like, Emma, you can't just like go
I
snooping.
I wrote Emma, don't encourage Norma's bullshit.
Right. And so the next thing they do is go in the room
Of course.
because why not?
Yeah.
Uh, they're going through her stuff, and Emma finds this like feather whip thing. She goes, "What type of work did you say this woman's in?" And Norma just looks at her and goes, "I think it's obvious."
My note says it is obvious. She is a maid.
That is a not a very good duster. It's very small,
Well,
but
that's what he said. And
I lost it when she's just like, "I think it's obvious." Like you're not wrong. And then she finds this letter invitation.
also, to be fair, a feather duster on a stick like that is called a tickler.
Oh,
Let's just call a spade a spade. And a tickler.
got it. Got it. Good to know. Good to know. Um, we find a letter addressed from the Arcanan Club. And she's like, "What's this?" And Emma's like, "Oh, my dad worked with them." She's like, "Oh, it's device." She's like, "I have no idea." She's like, "Well, you're no help." Excellent
Yeah,
one.
she was like, yeah, my dad doesn't like, he does taxidermy for them and he kind of finds them weird and creepy and wishes he doesn't work with them, but we no, we're broke, so like he does it anyway. And I was like, that's healthy.
Yeah, of course. Um, so she's like holding on to stuff, and then she's like, "Don't tell Norma about this." And I'm like, "You have Norman telling Emma not to say stuff, and you have Norma telling Emma not to say stuff, and now she's just got this whole knowledge of things she has no idea what to do with because she has no idea what's going
And
on."
I was like, lying for his mom is a sure way to doom the relationship.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
And then Alex walks out, and he's like, "See you later, Norma." And I was like, "I forgot he was still living there."
I said, oh, Alex, I'll miss you.
And he like gives her a check for the whole time he stayed. And she's like, "No, no." And he's like, "No, you're gonna take this money because you're not gonna have any like next week."
And I wrote, oh, Alex, you sexy, generous man.
But then they're so awkward. Like
That was the most awkward thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
it was incredible. I was like, "What is happening right now?" I was like, the two of them have like spoken before and they're acting like they like don't know what's going
They
on. So
like hugged and then they like didn't hug. And
yeah,
then she was like sniffing his hair. And then it was like they like almost kissed, but not really. And then like weird French cheek kissed, even though neither of them have ever done that with anyone ever. And then he like awkwardly walked to the car and then she like chased after the car to like talk to him in his window, but then still didn't say anything
I
useful. And
know.
I was like, what is
I thought
happening?
for sure it was gonna be one of those like dramatic rom-com scenes where she chases him down and kisses him. Again, this is not a rom-com, but
No.
that is definitely what the
But
setup.
also, if she had done that, I would have been disgusted.
Yeah, fair. Also, side note at this moment, so I get commercials because I don't pay for extra Peacock. I just get the basic. And they have a new show coming out called Little Demon. And it's about this like it's a cartoon and it made me think of that show y'all used to watch that seemed scary when I watched it. That show that
Oh,
Ain't That Just the
over the garden
Way?
wall.
Uh-huh. And that really disturbed me. Like it was that same look.
Oh,
But
I gotta figure out if Dan's ever watched
ooh, you should terrify him. And like her mom seems like a normal person, but her dad is the devil. And I'm very into it already. So, side note, that show's coming out on FX, and I think it's going to be incredible.
that. Okay.
Um, so now we're on our date, and Emma asked Norman, I can't say their names, asked Norman why he changed his mind about her, and he
Okay.
just
No, no, no.
avoids the
But
question.
but she didn't just ask him. She said, so when exactly did you start thinking of me in a different way? And like what? And I literally was like, this is me trying to have a conversation with my boyfriend, trying to figure out when he started like wanting to date me and not just work with me. Like it literally sounds like she sounded like me having a conversation.
Well, I feel like this is like such a normal conversation that like if you were friends with someone first, like
Yeah, but
that
like,
feels like the way.
is everyone as awkward as Emma and I?
I don't know. I am for sure. So like I think it's normal, but that doesn't mean it is. Um, and he's avoiding it. He just keeps avoiding the question of when he decided he started liking Emma. Because I think he didn't. I think he just decided this was the right thing he was supposed to do to be normal.
Yeah.
And so instead he says, "Did you and Benner have sex?" And I'm like, "Whoa, what's happening right now?" We have really fast forwarded this conversation. That Emma and her sex positivity, just like, "Yep, is that weird?" He's like, "No, that's okay." But then he starts to get really weird about it. And he's like, "Does it make you feel bad?" And she's like, "I mean, the little bit of like, we shouldn't be doing this, but not like in a any other way." And
She's like, why does it make you feel bad? And he's like, no, just like I'm not myself. I'm a different person. And I was like, that is the biggest, most shiny Coke can colored red flag I have ever seen in my
mhm,
life.
yeah. And he's like, "I guess it just depends on the person." I was like, "Yeah, you're insane."
Yeah, but also she was like, it's okay, like sex is different for everyone. It's not easy, it's complicated. There are layers to it. It's not like cracking an egg. And I was like, I actually think it's exactly like cracking an egg. Um, because when you crack an egg is going to come out. But then what you do with that egg, there are so many options. There are omelets, there are sunny side up, there are eggs that you probably shouldn't crack because they're actually a little bit fertilized and you did not expect that. Like there are goose eggs, there are ostrich eggs, there are uh Easter candy eggs that have chocolate inside, and that's just a surprise.
I cannot deal with you right now. It
so
is
yeah,
past my bedtime.
it's so far past my bedtime.
And I think we just need to move on from that.
Okay.
And so
If I
she
never, if I never show Dan any of this podcast, I will be showing him that clip of me explaining why sex is like cracking an egg.
if you never show him any of the podcast, I will show him all of the podcast because I think he needs to see it. It'll be too late by the time he watches it anyway, so we'll be locked in. Um, he already is, so it's fine. So we go to the Arcanum party.
Oh, no, wait, I have more to say about this conversation. I took a lot of notes about this
Okay,
conversation, apparently, and nothing else in this episode.
please enlighten me.
Then Emma starts to explain why she thinks that Norman is like weirdly attached to his mom and how she's like Norma is afraid of him growing up. And I was like, you are all the way correct. But then
Yep,
she but then she goes, unless you want to be Peter Pan. And I paused because I go, weirdly, kind of is. Because
yep,
the character who plays in Finding Neverland is the character that inspired Peter Pan. So it was like funny because he is Peter Pan, haha. But then she goes, do you want to be Peter Pan? He goes, yeah, maybe kind of. As long as you'll get to be Wendy, as long as you'll be my Wendy. And she goes, well, Peter and Wendy never had sex. And he goes, oh. And I like wish I wasn't obsessed with that conversation. Like I hate them. I
right.
hate, I don't want anything bad to happen to poor sweet baby Emma, except for that she's in love with Norman, who's clearly going to murder her. But if someone had that conversation with me, I would have their name tattooed on my nipples.
Mhm. Yeah, well, that doesn't sound like a good idea either, but that's fine. I do love the conversation. I would not be quite as dramatic as you, but that's okay.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, everyone. I
It's
have
so late.
completely lost it.
It's fine. It's
We
late.
still have like half the episode.
No, I have like a page and a
Oh,
piece.
okay, good. Good.
So now we're at the Arcanum party, and well, Norma's on her way to the invited event, and she decides to try to be Annika. And apparently, there's some password you need to get in. She doesn't know it. So he's like, think you should probably turn around. She's just like, cool,
But like
got it.
also, what on earth made you think that that invitation was enough to get you into a party like that?
I mean, could have been, maybe. I don't know. I don't go to parties like that. So I don't know
Yeah,
what you,
clearly neither does Norma.
yeah, things me and Norma have in common. um, and so we just leave her there for a bit. And so we go back to Dylan, and Caleb wants to go cause trouble. And he reminds me so much of Zane in this moment.
I literally was like, Kayla was not a good influence. I'm not thrilled about the
No,
situation.
Caleb is just a new Zane. So maybe that means he'll die quickly. We'll see. Um, so we go up to Chick, and he like they try to like creep up at night. So he like comes up behind him with a gun. And he's like, what are you doing? And they're like, hey, we're here about the dog thing. And he's like, I don't have a dog. It's like, okay, you were truly just coming to snoop around, fine. And then they go inside, and this guy's like, look, we got rules here. As long as we all keep the rules, everything's fine. No reason to get out of whack. And Caleb is just like so in his face about stuff. And he just keeps saying, "Isn't that right, Dylan? Isn't that right, Dylan?" Chick, because he's like, I'm not talking to Caleb. Caleb's a moron. He doesn't know
Yeah.
what he's saying. And also, I'm pretty sure Chick is stoned as hell.
Okay. But Chick might be the smartest person on the show so far.
So far, yeah.
But like in terms of actual like book smarts, because
Yeah.
the insult that Chick uses, I laughed so hard. I was crying. I had to pause the episode, and my dad was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "This man just said the best line I've ever heard in television, ever." Because he asked a question, and Caleb told a real stupid lie,
Yeah.
and then Dylan just told him the truth. And
Yeah.
he says, "You two remind me of some guys I read about in a book. Do you happen to have rabbits up there?" And
And
when I
they clearly
tell
didn't
you,
get it.
no, they did not get it. I don't know how many people in the audience of the show got it, but I sure got that he was calling Caleb Lenny, and I almost died.
Because it's like a really fair comparison.
So fair.
Like, oh gosh.
And for those of you who are not part of the literary world or are literature inept, um, it is a reference to the John Steinbeck classic of Mice and Men that most of you probably were forced to read in 10th grade and did not understand at the time.
I did not read it in 10th grade.
Oh, I did.
I
I
do.
also I also absolutely adore that. It's the only John Steinbeck that I enjoy.
That's because Grapes of Wrath is the
Grapes
slow.
of Wrath and East of Eden might be two of the worst books ever
Yeah,
written.
never read East of Eden. But
As a English teacher and a literature scholar and someone who's attempting to get a PhD in English literature, I hate to say that I think John Steinbeck is the most overrated piece of shit writer on the planet, but Grapes of Wrath and East of Eden are terrible. So,
yes, 100%. I haven't read East of Eden, but I will back you up on that and say you're 100% correct. No question.
yeah. Of Mice and
Um,
Men, phenomenal. Of Mice and Men, one of the best stories ever written.
Great message. Good
Yeah,
storyline.
love it.
But yeah, so then we go back to Norma and I just put cool. Norma's gonna sneak in now. And I put this seems like a terrible idea. And then
It does.
she gets up to the window and you see this like clearly very rich guy and looks like he's in the like 1% club. And all I could think about was those have you this might just be a really like running storyline in thriller books, but there's always this like endangered animal club where there's always these like really rich people who have the secret club and they hunt endangered animals. And I
Um,
know that like that happens.
yeah, it reminded me of something that I will explain to you one day, but I can't yet because I want you to experience it firsthand because it reminded me of a moment in Sleep No More. So I can't explain everything. Also, if you've never been in that room, it doesn't make sense, but I that's what I thought of. But also like every like vampire cheap gothic romance novel has a man in a chair like that with women and weird creature heads behind him. So I also could have been that.
Also made me think of the parties they talked about with the Long Island serial killer. Um,
Yeah,
mhm.
yeah, yeah.
And then I put okay or just voyeurism because they are just
Just
watching
watching. Yeah.
after
Nope.
it. And Norma, as she should be, is horrified.
But then she's even more horrified when she finds out that my husband is there at a party like that.
Right, right. And she starts telling him she like wants to give him the fifth degree, but she's so freaked out about Annika that she's like, good, you're here. You have to go in there and you have to see if she's there. She's like, I think she might be dead. And I'm like, first of all, you have no reason to know anything. And why are you telling the police officer who already barely let your son go for killing someone that he may?
Yeah, the thing is, I looked at Alex's face and I was like, oh, yeah, no, Alex, just so you know, you're correct. Norman absolutely fucking killed her.
Right, right. And so it's good times.
But then Alex assures her that that's not why he's there. And I was like, thank God. So
But also, is it the reason he's there?
honestly, I don't care.
Okay,
I'm
well,
into it.
I do. I care. But
I mean, I hope he's not involved in like murder, but like if he wants a little bit of voyeurism on the side, like I'm so down.
okay, but like the parties that I've heard about, like the Long Island serial killer, these people were not always there with consent.
Okay, again, not down for the criminal aspect of it, but
Right.
like consensual sex parties are a thing. And if
Right.
a man that looks that good in a suit wants to watch me screw somebody else, he can do that.
I don't think I would be okay with that. That feels like a line. Feels like a line for me. Um,
It's not the line for me.
no. I am also expecting that whoever's in this house are bad people.
Well,
So
yes.
I don't want him to be a part of that party.
I don't want him to
That
be a part
feels
of it either.
awesome.
I actually wrote thank I'm glad that you're not there. Like, but also if he was there just for like casual voyeurism and not being like attached to an underground sex ring, I'd be cool.
That's a little more leeway.
Yeah.
Um, and then finally, Alex convinces her to leave, as she should have in the first place. And she goes to drive off and sees the sign for the bypass, and it is called the Lee Berman bypass.
I wrote what? The Lieberman Memorial Bypass. I said the painful fucking irony of that being named after him is just so beautiful that I cackled.
I was like, Norma's gonna run off the road right now. But instead, she tries to beat up the sign unsuccessfully. So she drives her car into it because that's the next rational thing to do.
Correct.
And it's like, cool, good for you, Norma, good for you. And as soon as she runs into the sign, we go back to Emma and Norman. And Emma is dropping Norman off at the hotel. And she's just gonna be the one to make all the moves.
Mhm.
Just is what it is. She's
Yep.
like waiting, like she does that whole like, okay, good night, okay, see you later. And then she's just like in it. She's like, we're gonna make out now real fast. And then she's like, okay, bye. And so he gets out and he like is slowly walking home.
No, hold on, but he stops her. He
Oh yeah.
stops her mid makeout. He pulls away. And she's like, "Is everything okay?" He's like, "I just I don't want to get something started that I can't stop." And I was like,
Which
making
also
it
is a fair thing to say.
for anyone other than Norman.
Right. Very weird. Very weird to hear things that could be normal coming from him.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so then Norma gets home and she pulls up with her broken car and he's like, oh my gosh, what happened? Are you okay? And she's like, I hit the sign for the new bypass. And she's like, on purpose? She's like, of course. Like, what kind of question is that? And I was like, well, that's true. I guess it's better that you didn't just like run off the road. But
Right.
um, and so then he's like hugging her and he's like, you've had a hard life, you've had a hard time. And she's like, oh no, it was just a weird party. Everything's okay. And he's like, no, no, the past couple of years. And he's like, I'm worried about you. And I was like, I'm worried about you,
I literally wrote, "Stop killing people and she'll have less to worry about, bro."
right? Right? Like you are 95% of her worry. Like
I'd say you're 98% of her worry.
this bypass is kind of a big deal. They're not going to have any money or a place to live if it goes through. Well, I guess they bought the house, so they're making payments on it. So they'll have a place to live, but they won't be able to make any money. It's like I feel like that could be like a good 5%. So maybe even 4%. This Annika problem is a 1%.
Okay.
But
Yeah, but Annika is only a worry because her son probably killed her.
also true. And on that note, we come to the last scene, and there's a dog barking at the water. Someone's trying to get the dog to go home, and we keep panning down with a really good camera work, panning
Wonderful
down,
camera work.
straight down, and there's a body face down in the water that I'm assuming is Annika.
I said, thank God they finally found the body. And then I realized it's only been 2 episodes. So, like, or one
It's
whole episode. It's literally
been,
only been one episode. But it
yeah,
felt like a really long time because I knew he killed her as soon as I saw him get in that car.
yeah. And I was wondering where this episode was going to go because it was such a slow ending. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it was like important things happened. We saw the Arcanum Club. We ran over a
Mm-hmm.
sign. We had our end of our day with Emma, but it was kind of like we wrapped up this episode, and which is not how it normally goes.
Right.
Wondering what was going to happen. So I thought that was a good way to end it, just
I
on
did
the
too.
found body. And yeah, I think I only have a few things for trivia. Um,
Please.
one of them was the Of Mice and Men reference. This is the first episode to receive TVMA and not TV 14 in the series. Um,
Oh,
Norma,
because of the sex club.
yeah, but Norma was raped in the first or second episode, and it was still TV 14.
Ooh, sorry. Yeah. Apparently,
So
voyeurism is more scandalous than rape.
I guess I have some questions about their rating system,
I
but
I I would have to agree with that. Yeah, that's messed
yeah.
up.
Um, but yeah, so this is the first one rated TVMA. And fun fact, not only was Ryan Hurst in Sons of Anarchy, but so was Kenny Johnson, who plays Caleb.
Okay.
Yeah, oh my gosh. So yeah, who do you want to punch in the face this week?
Norman.
He
Norman.
would have been my number one
Yeah,
for sure, but I'm gonna go with Caleb.
fair. Fair.
Um, who is your MVP?
That's a hard one. So I don't really think anyone was stellar in this episode. And I hate to be this person because I feel like I'm starting to become a cliche. But I'm gonna pick Alex.
He probably would have been my first pick for this episode. No one was great, you're right. But I'm gonna go with Emma because she offended me the least this
That's fair.
episode. Breaking and entering was the least offensive thing that happened.
I almost picked Chick just for being new and interesting and saying something funny.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like that's how low the standards were for this episode.
Right, right.
If
Um,
Alex hadn't rescued Norma from the sex party, I wouldn't have picked him.
that's fair.
But that bow tie,
What can you do? What can you do?
I'm a sucker
Um,
for a man in a bow tie.
I know. Um, but yeah, you have any predictions, thoughts, feelings?
My feelings are that the show is just getting more fucked up every time I watch it. My thoughts are that Norma is not going to survive much longer.
Surely not right. We have to have some show without her being alive.
And my predictions, I don't know. I think the body count's going to be kind of high this season. Like I think Norman's going to start killing more frequently.
I think so because he was in such his psychotic state for this whole episode.
And because Annika, there was no cause. He just saw her and picked her, and like he knew he was going to kill her before she told him that she was a sex worker, just because she was wearing heels at like the motel. Like I think we're leading to a problematic area.
I agree. I think you're right. Um, yeah, I don't really have any other predictions right now.
It's fair.
I think the body count's gonna be high. Um, yeah, at some point, Emma has to start figuring things out, bless her heart. But I don't know when that's gonna be. Maybe when she dies. Who knows? But yeah, So I think that's all we have this week. You can contact us by email, deathandaliens@gmail.com. You can find us on all the social media at Death and Aliens. You can find me at CECloud13.
And you can follow me at EMKAY_superstar.
And we will see you
Also,
on.
this
Oh,
episode comes out on September 1st, so happy fall.
happy fall.
And I know that that's not when the equinox is or whatever, but it's fine.
It's always fall in my heart.
There isn't even an equinox in fall. It's a different word in fall
It
and spring,
is.
but I don't
Mhm.
remember what that word is. But happy fall.
We've almost made it.
Yes.
All right. So we'll see you for Sci Fi Sunday.
Bye,
See ya.
friends.